Hello, I'm Derek Wheatley and welcome to episode 48 of the Wheatley Podcast. Just to let you in on a little thing, right? I think it's the 19th of December, but this is coming out on the 30th. So I want to say I hope you had a great Christmas in advance, or in the past, wherever it is. But thank you very much for your support during the year, and all the listens and the likes and all that. It's really appreciated by myself and John. We're still doing the Sunday thing live. We're also doing the Live and Joyful series probably for the rest of the winter, maybe into February or something like that, and just getting people on to have a bit of crack and not kind of focus too much on the mental health side of things, but more on a bit of happiness and joy, which I suppose ties in a way anyway. But yeah, keep watching out for that, because it's not a set thing. We just throw it out there and see what happens. But let me introduce you to my guest today. He's a musician, a campaigner for the legalisation of cannabis in Ireland, and he's the host of the Cannabis Patient Podcast. And his name is Kenny Tynan. Kenny, how are you doing?
Great, Derek. Good to be on with you this morning. Thanks
very much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Like we were just talking about there, it's a mad time of the year. I've got this. I don't know if you've ordered anything offline this year, right? But I have this package anxiety, right? And I never order offline really, so there's never me checking up on packages to see if they're coming. So I got something for my nieces and nephews, some books and stuff, and they haven't come yet, and they were sent to the wrong postal place. And I keep checking every hour, like it's ridiculous, And then I heard a car door there about 5 minutes ago, and I legged it downstairs to see if it's the postman. But if something happens in the middle of this, Kenny, and I just disappear, you just hold it down for 2 minutes, all right?
I will indeed. I'll sing an old Christmas song or something like that, Do
you know what? I didn't even. It's ridiculous. I didn't even think it. I was just thinking you could just chat. But yeah, sing a Christmas song would be great. But listen, we'll get into it, Kenny, and so people will get to know you. So give us a short history of your upbringing, please.
Well, I was when I was born, I used to live. I've lived in plenty of places around the town. I was up until the age of 3, I think, I was in Iona Grove, a little row of houses behind Iona Park. And then I was reared in from the ages of 4 to 7 up in the Battery Heights. There's the high rises in the Battery Heights that were knocked. Yeah, we used to live in 111 Battery Heights, one of the bottom ones there, and I think there was 2 flats above us as well, After that, then moved to St. Joseph's Villas, and I grew up there for most of my life. So I did. It was a great little area to grow up, and there was plenty of older teenagers to be your role models, and you would have plenty of children your own age to hang around with, and. So it was a lovely little place. Like everybody looked out for each other there, So it was a really, really nice place to grow up.
Yeah, that's cool, because we were actually talking about this a couple of episodes ago with Cormac when he was on, and we used to hang around together, and it was similar to what you're saying there. It was like a small little group, but everybody kind of looked out for each other, and there was a nice little buzz about the place and stuff,
Yeah, it's great. Because we didn't hear this saying until we moved out to Ballyforan, but it takes a village to rear a child, and that's the kind of situation it was like in there,
Yeah.
I remember Phil Dawson, God rest his soul, he was a great mentor out there. He would have us out sparring out the back and things like that,
Yeah.
He was known as a big boxer in the town, many years ago. I remember even going up to Brendan Grahan's barbers to get me haircut, and seeing this old picture of Phil Dawson on the wall in his boxing gloves, because we all thought that, maybe he was codding us, you know what I mean? He was genuine, and from that moment on, we had great respect for that man. So we did, we do that from,
That's another thing. Like when you find out about people's past and you realize that they went through some stuff, and you kind of oh, that's who he is, I obviously was only in Wheatley's hairdressers, so I don't know anything about any other ones. But I'll drop in. It's an ad for a shop that doesn't exist anymore, but still. So, Kenny, when did you first become aware of mental health?
I think when I was in my teens, to be honest with you, I became a bit of a rogue in my teens.
Right.
So I started to dabble, with substances.
Yeah.
And, that's when I really became aware of my mental health, and I seen how it was affecting other people around me. So that's why I got away from that kind of thing, in the end, there wasn't much I didn't get up to in my youth, I was a bit of a gurrier, but everything changed then when I found out that my girlfriend at the time was pregnant. Okay. So I found that out when I was 19.
Right.
So that was a big kick in the hole for me. So it was, I changed my ways. Well, tried to change my ways. That was a turning point for me, basically.
Well, at the time, did you recognize that there was a possibility that you were, by dabbling in things and kind of messing about, that you were maybe affecting your mental health? Yeah,
of course. Of course. Yeah. Because we'll take, for example, with the likings of ecstasy or that, it gives you a serotonin rush. So, there's only so much serotonin your body can generate. So your serotonin is depleted for 2 or 3 days afterwards. So, and that's what they describe as a come down. And during that come down, you'll be full of the fear, full of anxiety, full of, feelings of shut down, it can even bring on sleep paralysis, so, it's a very scary thing, so.
Yeah. I think it's great that you did at that age to be aware of it, because I think a lot of people probably aren't, and we're talking, we're around the same age. So I'm thinking back to then. I don't think I would have been as aware as you were about that kind of thing, I think I did. It took me to my maybe mid-20s to kind of realize that, by doing things like drinking too much or whatever it was, that it was affecting me in that way.
Yeah.
So I think I know people mature faster, and that thing when you're talking about when the girlfriend at the time was became pregnant, I mean, that's the ultimate shock for someone.
Yeah, well, I suppose it was at the time. Yeah, I was just thinking back. It was my mum, God rest her soul. It was her 40th birthday. Now I turn 40 next year. Yeah. That was the time that I told her, look, you're going to be your granny. Happy birthday,
Yeah, that's 40. That is good, because there's mothers giving birth at 40. So to think a granny at 40 is quite a jump. But we're going to get into that a bit more in a bit. But obviously, Kenny, I got to know you through music. And I suppose a lot of people would know you from around the town from your music and the different kind of projects that you've done. So, what were your first, your early musical influences?
Oh, up in the Heights, up in Battery Heights, playing on my mum's little record player. The first record I played, I always remember it. So I do, and it's stood out for that. It still stands the test of time. Sweet Little Rock and Roller by Joe Dolan. Don't you know that song?
Really?
Yeah.
That's mad.
Yeah. I'd say,
you know why it's mad, Kenny? And sorry, I need to interrupt because this is such a coincidence. I was on the other night, I was doing the Live and Joyful thing on Instagram, and having my mate Calvin on, and he was talking about how he just read the Joe Dolan book. And we said, right, we'll write the movie about Joe Dolan going to Vegas. And that's just a real coincidence you bring up Joe Dolan, but that's neither here nor there, I understand. So Joe Dolan was the first record you remember?
Yeah. That's the first. I remember getting up before the parents. So I was in about 4 or 5, when I was living in Battery Heights. And I remember getting up before the parents, and the parents had a little hi-fi down in the sitting room. And I remember watching them putting on the records, and I managed to get it going, So, yeah. And the first one I put on was Sweet Little Rock and Roller by Joe Dolan. And the following year I had a drum kit, from Santi.
Really? Wow. Yeah. That's quite a jump, So, but then I suppose to let people in on it, my brother was in a band with you for a while, and I played one gig with you. I remember it well, actually. And I was kind of given a few songs to learn. I'd say I made so many mistakes during that gig, but anyway, you were you're a singer and obviously a guitarist and a pianist as well. What were your first gigging experiences around town like?
Oh man, I used to gig with a guy. We got our first gig in the Fiddlers. Did you know? It was I think it was no, it was only after me changing hands. It used to be O'Brien's, and then it was the Fiddlers. Yeah, but we got our first couple of gigs in there, and we were playing all ballads. You know, he was my dad's friend, like, you know. Okay. So, and he taught me, he gave me the only lesson I ever got in the guitar. He gave it to me. So, so we used to play there Sunday nights, I think it was, and just we were using all little guitar amps, you know, right, to mic up things, and even the mics were going through guitar amps. So I can just imagine how shit the sound was. But people used to come and see us, like, you know, there must be something about that raw sound.
Yeah, well, I think it used to be quite a vibrant town for music. I had Sean Allen on back a good while ago now, but we talked about that as even when I was, you know, 2021 when I moved back from Dublin, and I remember there being a very good scene around town, but like, you know, a lot of bands playing and or even just lads on their own, and I thought it was great. And you know, I suppose that kind of thing, there was I suppose, look, right, there was a band in one place, and like you're saying, you were doing ballads in another place. There was a mixture of kind of stuff going on. Yeah. What age would you have been then, Kenny?
Oh, I reckon I would have been 15.
Oh, that young?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Pictured you as like 22 or 23.
No.
So when did you get in then to your I suppose your first band then?
The first band I was in was I think I was about 13 or 14.
Oh, right.
The first band, yeah. Myself, Lewis Benson, Aidan Duff, and. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, myself, Lewis Benson, and Aidan Duff for a while. And then we expanded on to get David Costello in as well on bass.
Right. And were you always the singer?
Yeah, I sang. And, you know, I wasn't always a singer, like, you know, because I've never really taught much of my voice, to be honest with you, like, you know. I'd be more of a kind of backing singer, you know, harmony singer than anything at all. Like, I wouldn't have a strong or unique lead voice, you know. So that's why I wouldn't think I'd be any good of a singer, like, you know. But you know, I done the job for those bands, you know. I got to train my voice a little, you know. I got to exceed my expectations of where the range I could go, you know. Like, it's all, like, you know yourself about muscle training, you know. The throat is a muscle itself. The more you train it and the more you stretch it, the higher the notes you'll be able to sing, like, you know, and the more control you'll have, you know. So it kind of worked out.
It's you know, the shame about it is like you only start learning that as you get older, and if you knew it when you were 17 or 18 about training the voice and keeping the muscle kind of, you know, going, I think it would have been great. But I think I learned when I was about 35 that I should maybe train the vocal a bit more, you know.
Yeah. And so it was only when I went on to piano, and you know, because, you know, the way with guitars, it can be kind of out of tune slightly, you know. So you're but with piano, it's always 100% on. So you sing to that notes, and, you know, you play a melody and you get all the single notes in the row, and you practice that over and over again, like, you know. So that kind of brought me on a small bit there as well, like, you know.
It makes a lot of sense, actually, that the piano would it's always in tune, especially something if you have electric piano, even better. You don't have to tune it up. But so then when it comes to something like songwriting for you, Kenny, where does that creativity come from, do you think?
I haven't been a great lyricist for years. I think I was in the height of my lyrical writing when I was in my teens. Okay. And it was because I was a very emotional teenager, you know. Like the first song I ever wrote was about unrequited love. And I can remember that being played on the radio when I was 16, on my 16th birthday, like, you know. So, but ever since I've come out of that band, I've the last time I actually, I was about 20 when I last wrote lyrics, like, you know, properly, like, you know. So the rest of the stuff I've been doing since then, you know, I got introduced into electronic music when I was in around 16, and you know, so I never really took myself seriously with that until I met a guy that I was working with in Right Price Tiles, and he gave me a copy of Reason, which brought me on even further. And then I moved on to Ableton after that then. So, you know, that allowed me to get where I am today, like, you know.
Did you had no problem with music then? When you were writing music, it was more the lyrics that you kind of stopped doing, I suppose.
Yeah, because you see, when it comes to music, it's very experimental, and you learn an awful lot, especially with electronic music, because it's all about, you know, sound design and, you know, making it sound smaller for the easier parts and then bigger for the, you know, the more energetic parts. You know, it's a lot about that, as well as composing. So there's a lot of, you know, experimentation and mistakes to go on, you know. So you kind of find yourself getting into a flow state, like, you know. I start with a kick. I start with a kick, a 4/4 kick for most tracks. So like boom, 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 boom. And what I'll do is I layer a bass line over that. And once I can sit listening to that bass line for 20 minutes and still bob away with just that kick in the bass line, then I know it's time to add more elements on, you know. Because that's where the soul of the track is, you know. Yeah,
like there's a huge the thing for me actually with electronic music, because I don't think I was into it when I was younger. I was into a lot of guitar bands, things like that, you know, the usual, I suppose, the big bands at the time. And then a kind of Kid A by Radiohead came out, and I was kind of going, it took me a few listens, I was kind of going, is that good? And then I realized I thought it was brilliant. And then I looked back then on electronic music. You know, you start going back like the Prodigy and bands and groups like that, where you're kind of going, why wasn't I listening to this when I was younger? And like you say about bass lines or, you know, beats, where you can just listen to it for maybe a good 10 minutes and you're still kind of going, oh, I really like what's happening here. And I think LCD Sound System were another band that I really liked for that. They just kind of kept the almost like the repetitive beat, but it was enjoyable, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's all, the basis of an entire song is the groove of it. You know, how the bass interacts with the kick drum. You know, especially in electronic music, like, you know. So once you build around that groove, then everything is going to swing to that groove. You know, no matter what the chord changes or you know, the rest of it doesn't have to be static as such. Like, the rest of it can evolve, but as long as you have that solid thing that resonates in your heart and gives you that good vibe feel, the rest of what you program around it is just complementary, like, you know.
Yeah. So I'll bring it on to your Prodigy tribute act that you're doing at the moment. Well, not at the moment, but you will be. And I have to obviously give a shout out to Teggy, who I hope is listening, who is the Keith Flint of the group. What was who got that together? Was that your idea initially, or was it one of the other lads?
Well, that's kind of debatable. Jinxie will say it's his idea, and right. I will say it was my idea.
Right.
Because like he always wanted to put one together, and I always wanted to put one together, and it was just that we just said it, like, you know, at the same time, you know, and we both had ideas for it, like, you know, and we just never put it to task, like, you know what I mean? Like, we never, you know, we had all these ideas and we just never put action to it, like, you know, until we came across Teggy, you know, and we thought, you know, this guy would make a serious frontman, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he did. And he's an animal on the stage and a teddy bear off stage, you know. And that's an honest way of you know, describing him, like, you know. He really gets the crowd going, you know. And like I've loved the Prodigy, you know. One of the first bands I seen in concert was the Prodigy, and you know, for me to act out as, you know, one of my superheroes on stage is like a dream come true, you know. And I'm sure it's the same for Jinxie there, you know, and the rest of the guys, you know. Like even Joe Duke, like we have a great group of guys there, like, you know. Joe, he's a serious drummer, Roy. You know what I mean?
Do you know what I love? Do you know what I love, Kenny? I love the dynamic of it, because it's not obviously the Prodigy was a different like setup, we'll say. So there was Liam Howlett in the background and Keith Flint in the front, and like it's not. I'm not being bad, but the two other guys, you know, were not playing instruments like Jinxie is and Joe is, where it adds an extra dimension when you're in the background doing the beats and the tunes, and then there's a drummer as well on top of it, layering the beats, and then of course like Jinxie and his guitar, and the energy of Keane. And I haven't seen you yet, like live. I've only seen you on video, and I'm kind of going. There's one where I think Jinxie's giving Keane a piggyback around the stage or something, and it's pure, but it's pure energy. And I know that's what Keane brings to things, but there's a brilliant sound, like there's a really powerful sound of it, and that's only seen through videos. Do you think actually that is there plans? I know you'll have to wait and see what the crack is like, but is there plans for more gigs in the new year?
Definitely, yeah, definitely. As soon as they start coming in,
yeah.
As soon as the venues start opening, you know, we kind of, we don't, you know, do it like, you know, as a career thing. You know, we kind of do it. We do it as when it suits us. You know, if the gig comes up and it doesn't suit us, you know, we'll tell them, you know, because I'm well gone beyond lifting gear and this kind of crack. Like, you know, when I do a gig, I want to do it in luxury, if you know what I mean. So I don't mind if I don't get anything out of payment, as long as that my gear is carried for me and it's set up, you know, and taken down after the gig, so I can just go and enjoy the gig, you know, rather than. Yeah, so what we do is we get roadies with us, like, you know, and they'll do that. We've have a driver, a head roadie, and a lighting assistant as well, like, you know. So it takes a lot to put on the show, like, you know. So there's not just the three boys that you, or the whatever that you see, like, you know.
That's a cool setup, though. It's a really cool setup, and I will definitely, because I said it to Keane the last time, I will definitely go see you in one of the gigs in the future. I'm just going to read out this ad, Kenny, and we'll get back into it then.
No bother.
So, Fusion Training Centre, Monksland Athlone, a place to train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, kickboxing, martial arts, and CrossFit. A great atmosphere with experienced coaches and a real sense of community. If you want to join the team, find us on Facebook at Fusion Training Centre or drop in for a chat. Fusion Training Centre, train like a warrior. So, I'm on a roll with these ads. I haven't made a mistake in about 3 episodes. It's great.
But to go with that was pre-recorded. I seen the press play there that time.
Your mouth wasn't even moving. Come here. So, Kenny, could we talk a bit then about your diagnosis and what year that was?
Yeah, it was 2015. I was playing in a showcase for a wedding band, and it was just I was singing Uptown Funk, the first song, and fucking as I hit the high note, I went into a seizure. So I did, you know. At first I thought, fuck, what the fuck is going on with me? The people were looking at me, and it was like it was dancing or something like that, like, you know, because I was shaking like fuck, like, you know. And no, I dropped to the floor, and it was brought to Bannislow and later diagnosed with a grade 2 tumor. Had it removed in 2015, April 2015, and then they said it was 100% resection. So I was delighted. They were saying there was no need for chemo or radiation or anything like that, like, you know. But I didn't get long after that. October the following year, I was diagnosed with a recurrence, you know, saying it was coming back. And I was like thinking, you know, if you got 100% of it out, how was it going to come back, you know? And they were saying, like, you know, we obviously didn't get 100% of it out, like, you know. And so at that time, they were advising me to go on chemo and radiation. And my poor old mother had passed from cancer in that same year of April that year. And she took the radio therapy and chemotherapy, and to be honest with you, it didn't look nice, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't want my children to see their dad going through that, you know. And but the doctors had explained to me, and it just wasn't going into my head at all. I think I was kind of frightened, that, look, there's so many different types of cancers. So your mother's one was treated different. Like your treatment plan could be completely different, and you're young now and you're healthy as far as things go, and we really, really think you should do this. And I said to them, no, how about cannabis oils? Have you, I thought they would know about the endocannabinoid system, And no, I didn't have a clue about them, so they didn't. So I said, look, can you arrange them for me, or what can you do? And this is no. And in fact, one of the consultants I was dealing with, the oncologist, said that the Beaumont Hospital would never ever be prescribing medicinal cannabis. So that kind of fucking that set me off and tick, really, and determined to get my hands on it whatever way possible. So fucking I started getting a black market. So I did. I put out the call, and within 48 hours I had it here in the house. So I had it, but it was untested high THC, this kind of Rick Simpson oil, that kind of thing, And I started taking that, and I found it great. My seizures were decreasing, and but it wasn't actually having any effect on the tumor itself, the recurrence itself. That was still staying stable, okay. And then, so in the end, I ended up having to go to Spain, because the Irish government weren't going to help me here anyway, So I had to end up going to Spain, and I spent 3 months over there. And that I had an appointment with a cannabis clinic over there, and they gave me a recommendation, and I was able to get proper lab-produced medicine over there, 10% THC and 10% CBD, and I was taking that for the 3 months over there, and I noticed that I was seizure-free for the 3 months, and that was a big thing for me, because I was having them every couple of weeks before that, and so when I came back, then I was tried fighting for my license, and because when I first went over there, Derek, I had to carry a backpack full of medication that I was on. I was on 15 tablets per day, right? Oh. Yeah, for the head, and because when I first let me tell you first. That by the time that I came back from Spain, I was on 5. For going down from 15 to 5. Right, but I'll tell you what spiked my use was when my mother passed. I began taking benzos. So I did diazepam, right? And the way that I'm not sure if you've ever done benzos or whatever, but they can, when you're in a deep, dark place of panic and doom, they can take you out of them like rapid. They're the quickest, fastest thing working, but they have their downside, and that is that they're very addictive because they do that, and they're only a temporary plaster for a wound that isn't healing underneath, and I just kept taking more and more to hide the pain. I was taking 5 and 6 a day. So I eventually ended up in, after I went to the doctors about it, I went to my psychiatrist about it, and he says, "Oh no, you shouldn't be taking this amount a day." He says, "You'll have to cut down off them. Here, I'm going to give you a script for 2 weeks to get you down off them, right?" Now, that wasn't the right way to approach it at all, and I only found that out afterwards, so I went into a state of shock and ended up going down to the mental hospital in Roscommon, and trying to get admitted because I did not know what was wrong with me. My back was constantly tense. I was so afraid I was going to go into a seizure. All these thoughts that were, they were unfoundable. You know what I mean? I couldn't find reason for them. And so I went down there, and they said, look, what they were after doing to you there was completely wrong. But because you have epilepsy, we're going to have to be careful of what we do with you. We don't want to, like, send you off into like constant seizures or that, So, and because the medicine they had me on was a very complex mixture there. Like at the time, I was on Lyrica and metrazapine as well. So
I was on those at one point, yeah.
Yeah, and those were they were lowering the seizure threshold themselves, So like to add anything else, so they made the decision to put me on clonazepam, and those don't have the same strength, but they gave me the, when I first took them, I thought, oh, this is great. This anguish is going to be gone from me in a half an hour. Yeah. But it wasn't fully gone. It left that little piece for me to deal with myself. So it did. But it made it easier to deal with it, And, ever since coming across Blind Boys, kind of, he's talked a lot about CBT and, what to do. And that really got me through an awful lot of it, I started questioning my thoughts, and, and I started to realize that, if I was in, Rumi said it great, he said, you're the creator of your thoughts, you're alone. Like if you were in a prison cell with the door wide open, would you stay in there, And the answer is no, you wouldn't,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to kind of, I suppose, because I didn't know we were going to go down a certain route, so what you're dealing there with the mental health professionals, how do you think we're kind of doing in Ireland with that?
I think that there, where I am, there is great services. They will listen to you, and they will make sure you're all right. They'll have time for you, and as I was explaining, I had my last one was there last week, and I was explaining, I was having problems, because I'm after coming down from 4 clonazepam a day down to 1. And I was telling him, I'm having problems with the withdrawals, and he said, how long was the withdrawals lasting for? And I was saying, well, I was having them every day, up until a couple of weeks ago, and now it's every about 2 weeks I get them, So I says, but I was able to control them with CBD, if, I take extra CBD every time I got a little panic attack, and I said to him, that would be the same impact on my brain as what taking a D5 would be, a diazepam, because in my mind, I know for definite that this is going to work within a half an hour, so I can put it on my mind,
Yeah.
And so he was going to suggest bringing me up, on my clonazepam, adding an extra one per day. But I says, no, look, I think I'll get on fine, and by the next time, I'll be off it completely,
Yeah, I think that's important as well, Kenny, because I've been talking to people about this, and we tend to kind of freeze up a little bit in front of doctors or psychiatrists or whoever they might be in these professional positions, and we're the ones that know our own minds, and as you put it there very well, we're the creator of our own thoughts. So if they do say to you, I would think you want to put you on an extra one of this, and you don't feel like you need it, or you don't want to take it, it's okay to express that.
Oh yeah, of course it is. Yeah. Because you're the only one that knows yourself. I'm not saying don't be a hero. I tried to be a hero before, and I fucking fell flat in my face and came off worse altogether. Regarding of reducing meds. You've got to do it supervised, and you have to take it very, very slowly. And like I wouldn't recommend anybody do it on their own. You know,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
have to do it with doctor's advice. Like, and the slower, like, people are saying to me, you know, it's only the one a day now that you're on. You know, that's people are on 15, 20 tablets a day for the rest of their lives. You know, but I know that my own body is more than capable of looking after itself, and this is more a psychological thing for me now.
Yeah.
You know, that I am reliant on this psychologically more than physiologically, like, you know.
Yeah, I think to tune into that is important as well. Like, you know, that to realize that it's like, actually, like you were saying about the difference between taking the extra tablet or taking the CBD oil, and like that's a kind of interesting way of putting it. Is that in your mind, you know, you're going to be fine with the CBD oil rather than the extra tablet, and like I think it comes down to like I know you mentioned Blind Boy there and CBT. And people don't know what that is. It's cognitive behavioral therapy, which to me was the greatest thing that I did. With an American guy called Kevin, and he was absolutely brilliant therapist. And I think that's really the way forward. I think it's a really important way of looking at things. You've obviously studied it yourself. Like, has that like changed your perspective on life then?
Oh, totally. Yeah. Being aware that you are the creator of your thoughts, and what your thoughts manifest as is reality. Like, you know. So what we say we become. You know, what I say I am, I therefore am. Like, you know.
Yeah.
Like it's you know. Suffering is always going to come up in your life, you know. It's how you react to it, like, you know.
Have the tools to kind of deal with it in a way.
Exactly, yeah.
So Kenny, where are you now then with the diagnosis? What's the story on it?
I have been, my tumor has been shrinking for the past 2 scans.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm still in shock, man. That's been honest with you, like, you know. But like, because of that, like, I've been able to reduce other medications as well. Like, I'm nearly off the cannabis oil, like, as well, like, you know?
Really?
So yeah, I'm just on the maintenance dose now, yeah, and it's keeping me seizure free, like, you know. I'm producing that myself here, so
yeah. Wow, that's fast though.
Yeah, because with the way that things are at the minute, you know, even though I'm a licensed patient, like, I can't afford to produce, or I can't afford to pay for it. Like, in the state, only 15% of licensed patients, 25% of licensed patients actually get covered by the state. The rest of them are liable for bills up to $3 or $4 grand every 3 months, like, you know. So,
and why is that, Kenny? What's the reasoning behind that?
Because there was a report released called the HPRA report, and that recommends that it's only to be supplied for 3 conditions. One being spasticity with multiple sclerosis, the other one being intractable epilepsy, and the other one being chemo or nausea associated with chemo.
Okay.
So if you didn't fall under those, say if one for me was epilepsy and cancer, you know, brain tumor, and they thought that my epilepsy wasn't intractable because I hadn't tried over 10 medicines to prove it, you know. So yeah. Well, I tried like 5 or 6, like, you know.
You gave it a go.
Yeah. So this is no. Your primary condition is a brain tumor, and that's not covered. So you will have to pay for it yourself. Yeah. So
Kenny, right? Because I know you campaign. You know, you've been doing this for a while, okay? And what I don't understand, and I know you talk to people all the time about it, and you were in the Phoenix Park at the big campaign up there, and like, would it be a rally? Would that be the correct? Not really.
It was kind of a rally.
Right.
It was just kind of a get together, a bit of a networking event, you know. People.
You know the way, Kenny. You know the way you'd be chatting to a lot of people. What is it? What is the fear, do you think, with the government with cannabis?
Losing voters. That's it. Because you know yourself, the average age of the voter around here, right? And a lot of them would be Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael voters. Okay, you know, to be stuck in their ways. So they're the people that we need to convince. You a lot of them will toe the party line when they are, in fact, interested in cannabis and the medicinal uses. So we've set up this group called Patients for Safe Access. Okay, and we'll be launching this over the next couple of weeks, and we'll be getting patients to join us. And we have stuff there for patients to learn about medicinal cannabis and their rights on the website, and we're going to give them a chance to get all their voices together and come together as an advocacy group to put on events and et cetera, help shape regulation and legislation going forward, and so it's not a lost battle yet,
it's I agree 100%, and I think I think of my own parents. I won't say who they vote for or anything like that, but I do think that they are the type of people, though, if they sat down and they will listen to this podcast. So, but just sat down and read or heard about something, I think they'd vote for it, though. And I think the word, just like cannabis or whatever it is about it scares people for some reason. And I know it's a lot of it's to do with maybe not having enough knowledge on the subject. And when people hear your story and then all of a sudden they think, oh, he has to move over to Spain for 3 months to get sorted. Surely there has to be some place where they think that's not right. Yeah,
it doesn't really. You don't really start to understand it until it darkens your door, when you need it, but I think that there has been a huge change in views, we've seen in the last week alone, how they're going to continue delivering for the patients that have the licenses.
Okay.
And as well as that, there's the Gardaí have actually recognised that it's taken up way too much time in their courts for personal possession. So it's down to them. They can caution you if they don't have to prosecute you if they catch you now. And what was the other? Oh yeah, the bill as well, the Gino Kenny's bill. And hopefully this group, Patients for Safe Access, will be supporting that bill when we get to see it as well.
Brilliant. I like to think that if it was just somebody you just need one of the kind of main guys in the government to kind of say, well, yeah, sure, it's fine, I think it would go through. It just seems to be because it's from the other parties that are kind of outside the the we'll say elite or main ones, that it's kind of pushed away a little bit. And I think that's kind of a shame, because it's not just lads and girls that want to go off and get stoned. It's not just about that. There's a lot more to it. It's so layered. And do you ever kind of lose hope at it, Kenny, or it's still burning inside you?
Me personally, I couldn't give two fucks about what the cops or anything thinks. I'll do my thing my way. Law of the jungle is all that is applies to me as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Right? But at the same time, it kills me to see the likings of young people there with seizures and not having a quality of life, and people they're suffering with chronic pain, and there being an opioid crisis, when the first thing that should be turned into is cannabis, not as a last resort, And then you see all these teens then that are getting cannabis from dealers that don't ask for ID, and they're the real gateway to harder drugs, is because normally you go to a dealer and they'll offer you coke or maybe even heroin. You could be could be inside that, and as well as that illicit benzos as well, they can be all got by dealers, so that's the only place that cannabis consumers can go at the minute is dealers. We need to eliminate that, and reduce all that harm that's happening. That's the big message of the drug strategy is harm reduction. And the simple harm reduction for me is just eliminate prohibition and regulate it for over 18s, over 21s. I'm not sure what way people would. I would agree to do it to over 21s, because in my opinion, the brain is still developing until it's 21, and there is science that goes about this to say that it can affect the growing brain, and you are more susceptible to depression in later life if you use at a young age. So we want to eliminate that risk altogether, you know what I mean? Or at least reduce it as much as we can, you know what I mean? Like,
it's like they talk about, you spoke a bit about it there, and that, you know, you're buying enough dealers and you don't know what's in it. And also, you talk about things like, you see the kind of the drugs on the street now, like cat and those kind of things, which are like, they're awful when you see, obviously I've only seen it on television, but you see people on those programs like the 999, What's Your Emergency, or whatever it is. And you see people on these drugs that they're buying, you know, and nobody knows what's in them. It's extraordinary to think that if you had the chance to bring in something like cannabis into the country, because you see it in the States and in Canada, that it's helped. It's not been a hindrance at all in those ways, you know. I think it's a bizarre kind of way we have it set up. And I know what you're saying about the voter. That is a big, big thing. And when I was writing out the questions, for some reason I had other ideas in mind, and the voter thing didn't like jump out at me, but it makes perfect sense. And so Kenny, when did you decide, what was the kind of the spark to set up the Cannabis Patient Podcast?
Well, I was doing a load of fundraising to help pay for my meds. I was fundraising for a while, and then the state decided to cover it through the treatment abroad scheme. So I was happy out. That was they done that 3 times for me. So that was me covered for like about, 9 months. So I was grand and happy there, you know. But after that, then they says that I didn't qualify because I didn't have one of the 3 conditions. So yeah, so the widened the goalpost completely there. So I tried fighting that again, and after that I fundraised again. So I did, and that was the last time I fundraised. So I says, look, guys, I'm sick and tired of fundraising. It feels like I'm begging the whole time, you know. So I'm going to set up this podcast, you know, because it was something that was suggested by a couple of the people that, you know, and to say, you know, this is like people that want to support you, then can support you through this podcast, like, you know, and at least like fucking, I'll be giving them something back, you know. I'll be giving them a piece of content, you know, maybe more look into me, a better look into me life, you know what I mean? Something that people wouldn't get like normally on Facebook or things like that, like, you know. But it wasn't successful compared to the fundraising, you know. Like I've been doing the podcast, I don't know how many months now, and I don't even think I've gotten 2 weeks medicine out, you know.
Really?
Yeah, that's being honest with you, yeah.
But what about the actual, you know, getting it out there, giving a chance for you to have your say on it, giving other people a chance to come on, because you've obviously had guests on as well. Has that been helpful for even for your the mental health side of things?
To be honest with you, I used to dread doing it, and
really?
I still dread doing it. So I do, you know. I had to relive an awful lot of the pain and trauma. Yeah, you know, it was like, you know, coming up, and you know the way you have to plan for your podcast that week. So you're all that week to, you know, thinking about this trauma and thinking how you can put it into a story, and you know, it's not nice, you know.
No.
So look, I'm gonna. It's still there. Like the podcast is still there.
Yeah.
But I might do a Christmas special, and you know, and then do a different season when I've more to say, you know.
Yeah, I think to me, it's getting the word out there about your stuff. I understand totally what you mean about the writing the episode though, because it is a sense of you're thinking about it constantly for 6 days or whatever it is, 7 days until the next episode, and you're thinking, oh God, I have to talk about that again, and then you're just thinking about that episode over and over. Now, for me, I had that in the first 2 episodes, and then I just had guests on, and it was a lot easier, and I could lead into other stuff from what you say, from what other people say, and it was grand. But yeah, I didn't really think about it that way. Would you think about expanding it out, like to other things?
Well, I think Martin Condon has that. Martin's World. He has. He's actually with us in Patients for Safe Access as well. So he is. Yeah. He has the 420 Daily News, where he covers all things cannabis related. You know, and as well as that, he has his podcast as well, where he brings on guests. So like it's just a little bit of doubling up, you know. So we are kind of joining forces in a way that, you know, we're going to be on the part of the one team, you know.
Yeah.
But, you know, who knows? Maybe I'm going to change I could change the podcast to the Cannabis Student Podcast, because that's what I am now, you know. Like as far as I'm, you know, I haven't been in hospital since 2015, like, you know, so you know, so like I don't consider myself a patient anymore, you know. I'm more of a student because I have me course done on it, and now I'm studying for my diploma, like, you know. So,
oh really?
Yeah.
Well, do you know what, Kenny? Do you know what I like though? But I liked, you've done a lot, like things in your time, and even just you coming on and like voicing that. I always thought at the start, I was like, what the hell am I doing, like, with this podcast? Like, who am I to be doing a podcast? You know, that kind of way. And I'd say everybody goes through that thing. And then when I started doing it, I was like, well, I'm just like anybody else doing a podcast. Why not do one and just chat and like interview people? And I'm learning stuff all the time off people. I'm kind of going, gee, I didn't know that, you know, that kind of thing. And the way you were expressing yourself when you were talking about your diagnosis and how you changed your perspective and things, like, I'm always kind of going, that's something I take away from the interview. So I do think what's great about it is when you listen to people, just 2 people chatting on a podcast, you do take quite a bit away from it. It's quite comforting.
Yeah, it is indeed. Yeah, but I don't find myself as being a great interviewer by any means.
I don't know about that. Don't know. Be a bit harsh on yourself, I think. It's funny. It's funny though, Kenny. I walk away sometimes from that and I go, God, I'm not a good interviewer. But then other times I'm like, oh, that was a great interview, you know. And I like, the thing about it is if it's face to face, it's easier. You know, obviously we have to do Zoom at the moment. It's just the way it is. But like face to face, I think the interviews are a little bit easier. But like over Zoom, they're kind of like, ugh. But this is quite a nice flow to a nice conversation. Do you plan to run for the Dáil again, do you think?
Good question. I don't think I would have done it last year.
Right. Had
it been that I wasn't given a sign. The sign that was given to me was one day that the guy, I have 4 boys, and my 2 youngest came back from school one day with pictures of what they wanted to be, you know, when they grow up. And one was an engineer and the other was president. So okay. I wanted to show, like I was going through chemo at the time as well. And I was very low on myself. And I says, look, if there's any time to come out and get a bit of exercise, this is the time to do it. And this is a sign, you know, to do it. Like, you know, so I went around and I just proved to myself that I'm not a sick man. You know, this is going great for me. I'm getting better. Look at me out here on the roads, knocking on people's doors. You know, you would never think I had cancer at all, like, you know. Yeah. And I just if that's to stick in my child's memory, you know, that daddy went out there when I came home and done that, you know, because I wanted to be president. Yeah. You know, I think that's something to leave behind, you know.
Oh, absolutely. So like when you are in those times, those low times which come along, is that the place to turn to, your kids and your partner, like?
Oh, of course it is. My God, Marie, she's like the queen on a chessboard. She's protects everybody else around her, especially her king, you know. And but I have 4 wonderful boys. One boy is living in Cork. He's doing great for himself down there. He's a musician like myself.
He's very good.
Released his first EP. I'm so proud of him. So I am. And then I have 3 other boys here in the house as well. Joshua, he's like a brother to me. He's only 13, but we get on great. Like, the slagging and the crack, and me getting on to him about the girls and everything. And, he's at that age now and everything. Yeah. And then I have little Isaac, who wants to be the president, and he's a super reader. And then the smallest fella is a complete and utter mentaler altogether. He would bounce off the walls. I don't know what's up with him. I think we're going to have to get him assessed, to be honest with you.
At least that's it's funny, Kenny. I love when people put up posts about their partner on whether it's on Facebook or Instagram, whatever it is, and I've seen you do that for your partner Marie, and they're always very, very touching. Like, and I just get this kind of warm feeling when people do that. I think it's a lovely thing to do, because not enough people do it. I don't think they do it enough, whether they're embarrassed to show that kind of side of things or whatever it is. It just seems like a nice thing to do for your partner, and I've seen you obviously do it, and it's really nice. But actually, what's the name of your son, the musician?
Ronan Doyle is his name.
So people should go and check out Ronan Doyle. Check out his music.
Yeah. Well, he goes under the name Floof.
Floof. Yeah. How do we spell that?
FLEWF. Yeah.
FLEWF. Well, people go and listen to Floof. That's a great name, because it's the strange noise, So Kenny, then look, I know you're a very busy man all the time, and you probably don't get much spare time. But when you do, what do you like to do?
Oh man, definitely into music or play chess.
Chess,
number one thing I do is play chess. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Big time. I always have to get a couple of games in a day, So
you're the first person who's come on here and given chess as an answer for a spare time. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Anytime, first thing I'll do when I, come off doing me bits around, doing me bit of work or writing a bit of music is I go out and I play with the kids. That's the first thing I'll do. But when the kids are gone to bed and everybody's gone to bed, chess is the first thing I'll do. And I'll play chess on chess.com.
Just online, is it?
Yeah, chess.com. And I'll play 5 minutes aside, so it's blitz chess, so you don't have much time to think, But,
do you like, so this is a long-term thing, is it? You've been doing it a long time.
I've checked out my stats there the other day. I've played over 4,000 games.
Do you have you indulged in reading up about the chess champions or anything like that, or is it just something that's straight onto the computer and just do it?
No. I actually had a friend teach me it, so I had. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Fergie Milton.
Right.
Fergie comes out here a fair bit. That brings out the dog, and the odd time he'll do a bit of recording here with us,
Oh, okay.
And it was kind of Fergie that got me into it, and I knew a little bit about it, but Fergie taught me more and more about it, and he used to come out and teach me, because when I was in the depths of anxiety, I couldn't leave the sitting room, and the only person that was able to get me out of the sitting room was Fergie to play chess, and so I eventually kept getting better and better. And then, poor old Cody, he'd be in around us, the dog, and as I'd be getting better and better, Fergie would be getting tick. And he'd be saying, "Shut up, Cody. Shut up there now, Cody. Give it over, Cody." And Cody wouldn't be doing that,
Yeah. But it's good. It's a good game for the mind, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, stop! It's unbelievable. You can. There's so many different combinations that and it's always constantly a puzzle, and it's a puzzle that can change as well at any moment in time, So it's great for the head altogether.
I kind of dabble in it, but I should have got into it a bit more, I suppose. But I suppose I still can. Especially, you always think about, well, I don't have a board, but it's on, it's on the internet. Just do it on that. What then are your hopes for 2021, Kenny?
Wow. Yeah, maybe. Well, look, the year 2020 hasn't been too bad on me, to be honest with you. I've been used to this life, you know, for the past couple of years, being in my condition, you know. It hasn't really, you know, as long as I'm alive, I suppose, you know, because, you know, at the minute it's going every you know, I have every 3 months is the way I look at it, like, you know, at the minute. Like my next scan could say, here, look, you only have 3 months left to live, you know. That's the way it is. And that's the kind of way I have to live my life, you know. So I wake up every morning and I thank God, you know, or thank the Almighty, I should say, because that's a more universal term. You can identify with that as opposed to the word God, you know. I thank the Almighty every morning and every night before bed. And I might get a bit of meditation going on during the day as well, like, you know, so it just keep me grounded and sane, you know.
Yeah, it's kind of I suppose the first time that I've asked the question, and then kind of I had to think about the fact that there's that thing where you have to, every 3 months you have to go and have the scan, and I suppose the increase of anxiety leading up to it and things like that is just must be pretty tough.
Yeah, but you kind of get used to it. That's why you know, when you get the good news, you know, you don't take it, you don't go out and celebrate it like yeah, you know, because when you get the bad news, then it you can take it very bad, you know. So I you know, I've learned to just live with it, you know, and just take life as what it is, you know, and just be thankful that I've been blessed with such a beautiful family, like, you know. And that's true. Actually, it's probably a certain amount of deep thinking on your part that's kind of led you down that road where it's not constantly stuck in the kind of negative and the worry and anxiety, but to lead the CBT the CBT that leads you to a way of thinking that your family are the most important thing, and you know, you're very lucky to have them and things like that. I think for mental health, a relationship with the Almighty is what has done an awful lot for me, you know, knowing that you know, all my prayers have been answered, and any of the prayers that haven't been answered were good for me either way, you know. And the way I look at it is that, you know, I'm here to do the Almighty's will, you know, and as long as I do that, I'll be kept here, you know. And and you know, even down to, let's say when people pray, let's say you lose your wallet. I'll just give you an example. A woman lost her purse there the other day, or sorry, not that the other day, a couple of months back out here in Ballyforan. And I can imagine that woman praying to God for her purse to be brought back, right? Now, people might say that the angels don't exist, but like, that woman sent out that energy out into the universe, and my son found it, and he gave it back to her. You know, that was an angel, in my opinion. You know, that was the angel that granted that God put in her way to grant her request. You know.
Yeah. Did you always? Were you always a spiritual person?
Oh yeah, I was raised as an evangelist.
Okay.
So I was, and I eventually became ecumenical.
Okay.
So ecumenical means that I take from all faiths. You know, I'd be just as happy. I'd be as happy reading the Quran as I would. You know, I'd say, yeah, I'd read the Quran more than I would the actual older, you know, the New Testament and the Older Testament. That's where I'm finding most of my knowledge now. Yeah, is in the Quran.
That's very that's an interesting way of looking at things, and I never even thought that down that road, that you could just take from different things, and what, you know, helped with your life is the way to do it. And yeah, Kenny, it's been a fascinating conversation, as I knew it would be. I'll be honest. But yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. I know it's such a busy time of the year, and I know this is going out on the 30th, so I hope you have a very happy New Year, Kenny. And let me just stick with me for a second. I just want to get a photo with you, and then we'll one of the digital photos anyway, and then we'll knock you off. All right.
Okay.
So thank you very much to John, Megan, and John's family, to Ger, Calvin, my mum, my dad, my grandfather. Subscribe on the YouTube channel if you could. If you listen to this now, hit this subscribe. It's not that important, but you'll do it anyway. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Spotify, Apple, Anchor, Google Podcasts, etc. Merchandise coming in January. All proceeds will go to the one of the mental health charities. We're not really having picked one yet. And as usual, thanks to everyone, and Happy New Year to everyone. And we'll see you in 2021. Kenny, once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
No bother at all. God bless you.
Right, bye everyone.